You can't speak of worship without speaking of His presence. So what are you expecting to hear? Words that tingle the sensation of your ears and commands your hands towards the applause that should sound? I know His word says where 2 or 3 are gathered, He is there in their midst. But I am unusual about this moment. It's no more church as usual. It's not Sunday service as usual. I recognize that His presence is in our midst. But His presence is beyond the geographical location of a church. It is in the mental awakening of your consciousness of His presence within you. And worship is not in the gathering of people of same faith. For His word says we are of the new covenant and testament. We have become the temple. So why do you worship? What's your reason and motivation for worship? Because worship is not in the brilliant computation of sounds from the instruments. Worship, it's not in the vocal clarity of the worship leader. Worship is not in the sensational rhythm and blues vibes from the keyboard. Worship is not even in the perfect outfits of the choir behind me. It's not in the award-winning voices of the backup singers. It's a mental consciousness that resurrects your inner man to recognize His experience and presence. Because in worship, He floods my heart like an ocean of peace. In worship, He calms my turbulent, troubled life. In worship, He's breaking every chain that has held me bound to live life according to original design. In worship, He's answering the very questions that deafen my curiosity. In worship, He's reassuring me about my pathway when the direction for destiny and purpose becomes unsure and unclear. Worship. I know there are days when you ask yourself, your flesh tells you you are inadequate, you're guilty. Your makeup is imperfections, you are limited, you shouldn't raise your hands in worship. But let me remind you of His words that says, come boldly before the throne of grace. For my sake and your sake, 2,000 years ago, the curtain of demarcation was torn from top to bottom. So He says, lay aside your filthiness, your garment of filthiness, come boldly before the throne of grace and obtain mercy. I know there were days when your faith fainted and your patience wailed in pain. I know there were days when anxiety drowned you and circumstances overturned you like a tsunami. And you're right to have 1,001 reasons not to worship. But I still dare you to worship. To give worship to Him that stretches the earth like a curtain. To give worship to Him that clothes Himself in glory. To give worship to Him that laid the foundations of the earth with words and created seasons just by thoughts. I dare you to still give worship to Him that hides air in dust. He's the most perfect lover. For your sake, He came this close to you, even air cannot put a sandal come in between. For your sake, He would go into battle without being in the war. He quenches my thirst with understanding and satisfies my hunger with wisdom. So irrespective of situation and circumstances, history and present, I believe in the future when I come into worship in His presence. Worship is not the compilation of a set of songs you call an album. that holds words that only sit on the fence of your lip but does not go inside. Worship is a relationship. It's beyond the rhythms, it's beyond the sounds, it's beyond genres of music. It's beyond gatherings, it's beyond the makeups, your perfections of outfits. Because in worship, there's full restoration. In His presence, there's full recommendation. In His presence, there's total forgiveness. In worship, I find healing, I find peace. So I tell you today, worship is beyond congregational. It's a personal walk.